The crypto frenzy is far from over. So, this is a discussion that I have seen in many different forums. I have seen it on Twitter, I have seen it on Slack groups, I've seen it on Discord discussion groups. Anything that basically, any groups that talk about Twitter basically has had this discussion at some point in time. And the discussion essentially boils down to positing a few different points. Basically, what people think and what people have decided and their perspective generally is 2017, we had this amazing bull market. We had Bitcoin going from $1,000 to $20,000 all the way at December 17th at its very peak. Famously, we had coins like Roblox go and do 100,000 times their initial USD investment, or 1,000 times. And 100,000 times would be crazy because I actually held Roblox, but it did 1,000 times USD. Many other coins did 100 times USD. A lot of different coins. If you look at, let's say, here's an example, Zilliqa, right? Zilliqa, they raised something like $24 million in around September. And then what ended up happening is all of the Ethereum that they held, I think it doubled in price, or it went up some insane amount, to the point where the amount that they had raised was now well over the amount that they needed because they held their Ethereum. And so the Zilliqa team all of a sudden had all of this extra money that they didn't even know what to do with, on top of whenever Zilliqa actually ended up releasing onto exchanges and going live for trading. I mean, it was nuts. I think the very height of Zilliqa was something a little bit over $1 billion in terms of market cap. Now, obviously, I don't really know what the team vesting was like, who held the tokens, so on and so forth. But it was certainly a thing that I think was absolutely irrational exuberance, is the common way of calling it. But the Zilliqa team, looking forward, despite all of the hype that they had, despite all of the success that they had, and all of the kind of money essentially, and the war chest that they essentially had, you look at 2018, and I use Zilliqa as an example, but we can go into lots of other altcoins. We can talk about WanChain, we can talk about Ion, we can talk about Icon, we can talk about many of these other altcoins. What essentially ended up happening was they all tanked. They completely tanked. They tanked something like 90% in Bitcoin value, and then Bitcoin also tanked almost 90%. So if you look at the price difference from 2017, from the highs where most people were buying, unfortunately, to now, I believe it's anywhere from 90% to 99% of USD total loss. And that completely wrecked so many people, thousands of people. I've had so many people come and message me on Twitter and tell me, "Hey Roy, I bought, so and so coin, PundyX or whatever, or Gifto, just rent, you've heard of all of these ICOs, this $30 million ICOs, which were at the time considered low cap. A $30 million ICO at the time in around October and moving forward was considered a low cap ICO. And these coins would come out on exchanges and they would instantly pump to 5x, 10x, 20x even sometimes, multiples. In the case of Mithril, I think Mithril pumped to something like 15x on ICO on trading. Kyber released at something like 8x. Request was a little bit of a disappointment. But basically, it was a lot of these different coins that essentially came out and they had these crazy multiples. People bought in and they got destroyed. And the common kind of statement is, well, after 2017, we had 2018, everyone got destroyed, right? And what happened during 2018 was the great ICO and the great altcoin cleansing. And the great cleansing, as they call it, I've seen it called like that a few times. And it basically boils down to people saying that all of the FOMO and the greed and the hype and the speculation and the price pumps and all of that have now gone away, because the market participants who were buying into these 10x coins and 20x coins and expecting their own 10x to come out of that, and in many cases they were rewarded, because these people have been destroyed, have been absolutely wrecked. Now there will never be another bull run. There will never be another massive wave of speculation. There will never be another wave of hype. There will never be another kind of another period of time in which these coins, which are essentially fundamentally worthless, perform and bring people's portfolios to astronomical heights. And I personally couldn't disagree more. I think I have the rare perspective on this, the rare stance on this, because I don't see many people share my opinion on this. People have this mentality, and crypto investors especially, and I think the reason they have this mentality, and the mentality is that the drain the swamp. The swamp has been drained. The scammers are gone. The greedy players are gone. Now all that's left is the fundamentals of of blockchain and what it represents. And I can understand this mentality to an extent. And the reason I can understand it is because if you are a market participant, you have now been completely humbled. You have put in $10,000, $100,000, $1,000,000 on your coin of choice because you believed in the hype, because you believed in whatever it was going to achieve. We look at Omisego, right? Omisego, they had some insane partnership with Apple that ended up being like a skateboard, famously. They just had like a sticker. They had an Omisego or an Apple sticker on a skateboard, and it was like the biggest meme ever. We had, oh God, what was it? I think it was Wabi. No, it wasn't Wabi. It was Walton Chain. Walton Chain, basically, they pumped themselves up on Twitter. The story was Walton Chain did some kind of giveaway, and then Walton Chain, on their own account, they posted something like, "Oh, I can't believe I won. Thank you, Walton Chain team." And that became a huge meme. And so it was nothing that was really driven on fundamentals, and it was all speculation. And anyone who put a lot of money into these coins and into these assets, if you can call them that, got destroyed. And so they've been humbled now. Now they're sitting on their $1,000 or their $100 or whatever they have, their $10 even in some cases. Personally, here's an example, a personal anecdote. I put in something like, I think I put in $3,000 in Devery. I think right now it's worth like $300. So worthless, right? So after all of these market participants played the 2017 pump and then got destroyed in 2018, now they're humble. Now they think things are going to be different. Now they think things are going to change. Now they think that the FOMO is gone, the greed is gone, the scammers are gone. I couldn't disagree more. And you don't even need to necessarily agree with me. You just need to look at what is empirically happening in the markets. Despite what happened in 2018, despite the bear market, despite everyone saying that things were going to be better now and that they would only invest in things, in money that they could afford to lose, in projects that were fundamentally quality, Chainlink, and buy my bags, by the way. And it didn't end up happening because if we look at Binance now is doing their IEOs. The IEOs came out on Binance, and all of a sudden, we had so much FOMO, so much hype behind. The first one was BitTorrent. That thing went 10x in the bear market. The next one I think was Fetch AI. That one went like 10, 15x. Seller went like 6x or something. And all of the Binance ICOs started coming out. And let me tell you, in all of the groups that I'm in, despite the 12 months, the 12 straight months of everybody saying, I'm no longer going to stupidly invest my money. I'm never going to all in again. I'm never going to essentially degenerately gamble my money. It was all essentially bullshit because they're doing it again and again and again. These same people who said they weren't going to do it are now asking, hey, do you know where I can get an allocation for Seller? Do you know where I can get an allocation for Fetch? Do you know where I can get an allocation for this new IEO because it's going to pump? That's the reason why they're buying it, because it's going to pump. And I don't necessarily disagree with that standpoint from a market perspective. If a coin is going to go and there's a massive hype around it and obviously it's going to perform, I don't blame you as a trader. But I do certainly have my own reservations about you as a person now, because you were saying all of this stuff before. And now you're basically going completely contra against that for the sake of a few dollars. And so I personally don't really believe when people say these things. I'm much more of the mentality that this time is never different. It's never different. Nothing is going to change. And this is an old phrase. I don't know who came up with this, but they said the phrase is, you are the traffic, right? So people go in traffic and they always complain, oh, I'm stuck in traffic, all these cars around me. But they're completely oblivious to the fact that they are also in a car taking up space on the highway or on the street or on the road, wherever in the city. They are part of the traffic. They are part of the problem. And so everybody has said after in 2018, they said, oh, well, all of the speculators and hype is gone and all of the FOMO investors are gone. But I'm still here as a market participant. So everyone except me, I'm not part of the problem. Everyone else who got wrecked is part of the problem, but I'm not part of the problem. And I couldn't disagree. I could not disagree, because that person who said they were not part of the problem essentially is the traffic. You are the traffic in that sense, in that grand sense of market participants. So I think moving forward now that we see all of the hype is back from people who should know better, really, what do you think is going to happen to the people who don't know better? What do you think is going to happen? What do you think the people who are completely new to crypto are going to do? What do you think the people who are completely new to investing, who are completely new to these kind of returns, who have never experienced this kind of life-changing money and return on investment, what do you think they're going to do? Well, they're going to do the same exact thing that we did in 2017, 2016, 2015, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You get in, you get a little bit, you get a taste of it, right? It's almost like crack. Like you try it the first time and it's so good, but I'm not gonna do it anymore. But let me try a little bit more. And but it's so good. But okay, that's it. That's the last time, I promise. And so it's gonna happen again and again and again and again and again. And so I have this. In my opinion, what is going to happen now is even if we look at Bitcoin's price performance, right? Bitcoin was something at around $3,500 back in January. As of today, it's almost $12,000. So we went up almost 4x, 4 times the price of Bitcoin. Bitcoin, obviously, the largest market cap coin. So I believe it was, I think, $30 or $40 billion back in January. As of now, it's something like 150. So we have added that much money to the market cap. Do you honestly believe that that's all the money that's been injected? Obviously not, clearly not. That's really not how it works. How it works is people buy assets and they start FOMOing into them, and then the hype starts, and then the greed comes, and then the news cycle comes, and then the normies come from the news cycle and they start buying, and they don't really know what a top looks like. They don't really know what a bottom looks like. They don't really know how to trade. They're just kind of buying. And that's the reason why coins like Tron went to something like 2,000 sat. That's the reason why Ripple did the amazing returns that it did. That's why Digibyte did as much money as it did during its run. Is people don't really know. They don't really know what they're buying in many cases. And so I think looking at Bitcoin, you can clearly see that there's irrational exuberance. You can clearly see that this is an asset that people are buying, but not necessarily because of the fundamentals. Even though Bitcoin has the best fundamentals, don't get me wrong, it has the best fundamentals out of any crypto. And if you're a new player to the market, just stick with Bitcoin for the most part. Maybe take 5% of your portfolio to trade with altcoins, and okay, maybe you get lucky, you get a 10x or something, and then you made some good money. But really, it's very complicated in most cases. I know people who have done it, and they just lose their money, so on and so forth. So I think what has happened in Bitcoin so far is the irrational exuberance has definitely taken place. We look at the last month, it's June. It's almost the end of June now. And we have had a run up of Bitcoin of $3,000 or $4,000. That's insane. That is absolutely insane. That is clear hope. That is clear hype. That is clear FOMO. And so my worry and my concern is all of these people, all of these players who are going to come to the market now, they're going to do the same thing that happened in 2017. I think the people who think otherwise really don't understand that this time is never different, that this is kind of the story of mankind that goes back as far as we can remember, really. As far as we can remember from the very early days of history, there has been this desire for more, this desire for treasure, this desire for insane wins, this desire for life-changing profits with a very little bit amount of effort and a very little bit amount of initial capital. And so that's something that will always remain. And that's why people get scammed all the times. And this is why pyramid schemes work and Ponzi schemes work. And so people will put aside their logic. They will put aside everything that they know to be true in order to chase that rabbit, essentially. So I think the numbers are a little bit bigger this time. I think there's maybe a few zeros at the end of the market caps and a few zeros at the end of the dollar signs. But at the end of the day, the mob mentality is the same. The FOMO is going to be the same. The hype is going to be massive. And it's just Bitcoin, clearly at this point, I would say anyone who, if you believe in crypto and Bitcoin, even as a value proposition, from a value proposition standpoint, what Bitcoin provides, it is clearly this amazing asset And if you understand it, you can tell that it's going to go to 50,000, 100,000, whatever it's going to go to. It's clearly going to break all-time highs. I don't know if it's going to do that in 2019, 2020, whenever it's going to do it, but it's going to do it. And I also don't know if it's going to happen this run, but it certainly will happen. It is something that is going to happen, and once it happens, it's just like the initial $1,000 break in Bitcoin. It's going to start the news cycle again. It's going to start all of the mainstream coming in, and people will take advantage of that. People will always take advantage of that. People will create false projects and false hope and paid groups and all of these crazy things in order to take your money into their wallets. So thanks for watching. Retweet, like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter @PhilBeforeShill, subscribe to the YouTube channel, so on and so forth, and I'll see you guys next time.